Welcome to Philly Coco Presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 45. This is a developer's journey into making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are Philly Coco, a Philadelphia-based Coco Heads community focused on Apple development that primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, watchOS, and visionOS development. Philly Coco's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Woo! All right.
Nice.
I didn't flop that one.
It's not Reality OS. It's not XROS. It's Vision OS.
It's Vision.
Yeah, that was
Apple
my bad
Vision.
last time. Nobody in the keynote seemed like they knew what the name of the platform was either. They just kept saying this platform. It's recorded before they decided.
Yeah, of course. And some of them actually, some of them mentioned it as like XR in some of the videos. So.
I think that's like the official like short title for in code. It's like
it's XR.
Is that still the case?
Yeah.
If I do like if
like
available,
visionOS is too long.
So what is the XR supposed to mean? Just
I don't
experience
know.
reality or mixed reality?
Reality.
I feel like it's like
mixed reality, something like that.
Yeah, X reality. That could make sense. Mixed reality.
Yeah, it's meant to be like a catch-all, but like shorthand. But that's partially why we're here to talk. What we're here to talk about today.
What are we talking about today? Episode 45.
So first things first. If you've listened to us for a long period of time, you have known that Side Project Spotlight is about side projects in a lot of ways, of building stuff, trying new things, testing out the new fancy shiny stuff, and that Apple provides us every year. And sometimes we'll build something, and sometimes we'll finish it. So in one case, we finished a watchOS app called Kanji Love. You can download it on the watchOS app store. And sometimes we'll be in a bit of a pickle, no pun intended, building a kind of a multi-platform app called PickleJar, which was a task habit-forming app that we decided to make. Long story short, we sort of bit off more than we could chew, and we sort of pseudo-pivot a few times to try to shrink it down to maybe just the iPhone, iPad app at the time. And then we saw a new shiny.
Like cats.
We are like cats, or like dogs looking for squirrels, or looking when a squirrel walks by. Squirrel.
New OS.
Yeah. So we thought we had some time, right? So Vision Pro had been announced at WWDC, and we, as developers, were promised a development platform, an SDK, rumored to come out in somewhere in like mid-July. And we were like, well, we still have plenty of things that we can play with right now, like Swift data, interactive widgets, a lot of things that we could sort of like play with and integrate into our PickleJar app.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were thinking about doing a refactor because PickleJar app is a core database app.
It's a very small model. It wouldn't have been hard to do a quick refactor. So we were starting that route, but then Beta 2 came out.
Beta 2 came out, and so this is we're recording this in like pretty much end of June, so it was like 1 week beforehand.
Yeah.
And the whole developer minds got blown in a lot of ways. Was it 2 weeks before, right? I think it was. When Beta 2 came out. Was it 2 or 1 week? I'm trying to remember.
Feels like yesterday.
Practically.
I think it was the 21st it came out.
Okay, so
surprised everyone.
Yeah.
Today, so that was like 4 days ago. So it was like less than a week ago.
Could it have been? Oh, maybe.
It you know what? The people listening this can look it up if they really care about the dates. It was not very long ago. We barely had like Xcode was barely warm on our SSDs from Beta 1, and then downloaded Beta 2.
Please get angry at us in the comments below. Oh, that's right. We're not on YouTube.
Not yet, no.
Like and subscribe.
But so the long and short of it is, I guess we're going to put the PickleJar app on hold, unless one of us just does it for fun. But we're just going to like put that on hold for now, and we're going to switch our focus to visionOS.
Yes.
Right? And maybe we should explain why we think this is a good idea and not just chasing the shiny.
Why do we think it's a good idea?
We had this whole discussion before the podcast to prepare, and we're just not even using the notes. Why?
No, I'm joking.
Why?
I'm joking. Yeah. I'm joking. All right. So I think sometimes you get caught in sort of like this morose with certain projects, and a lot of us, I guess, right? Like, and maybe it's because of a variety of different reasons. We all have full-time jobs. Instead of like before, some of us can like focus like full-time effort on these side projects, and some of us can't. And then so now we sort of have to like really find like isolated time to be able to focus on these projects. So the other thing as well is that there are a lot of there's very rare of opportunity in the Apple development ecosystem where a new platform comes out and there's so much there's so much buzz, but then there's also so much leeway time to build something good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen this much amount of time frame. Well, maybe with the exception of like the first iPhone, the first iPhone SDK, maybe,
but people were jailbreaking before that.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess it comes down to this is an exciting opportunity for a brand new platform. It doesn't happen very often. Right. It's not going to be in anybody's hands in the general public for a while. It gives us some time to explore this brand new operating system with new paradigms to work with and try to figure out how to develop software for. Yeah. And we just want to make sure we're not like letting this opportunity go by. Mm-hmm. And this is like a side project podcast, so there's no reason why we can't just be like, you know what, we're just gonna do something else for a while. Like we've done it before, we'll do it. The funny thing is, like a year ago, we were talking about ARKit and all that stuff. We thought last year they were gonna do stuff with this, and then we quickly kind of ran into a wall with the AR stuff. It's how we ended up getting to the PickleJar stuff, because we were like, well, we can't really figure out what to do with this, because it's like they had some ARKit stuff, you had some other frameworks, but it was kind of hard to come up with a product that worked on iPhones and iPads. It was very compelling, but now we can make something that maybe is compelling for the 5 people that will own one of these things next year. So it's better that way, right? Somehow, no, but I mean seriously, because it's like all the ideas that we saw in ARKit and some other platforms over the years are finally integrated into one, vision. For not again unintentionally punning here, but it's like an actual vision for a product and a type of experience, and we want to explore that.
You were gonna say something, Aaron, or
no? Just the hardest thing is going to be when the dev kits, when we can get a hold of one, because that's going to be
the physical dev kit.
Yeah, the physical development hardware that's going to come out. I think sometime next month or so. So who knows how limited the supply is going to be? Probably pretty limited.
Well, that's another reason
they mentioned that Apple can just test your app for you, which means if they're offering that as an option, it's going to be really hard to get a hold of one of these things.
I think that's another reason why we should start right now, because if we can maybe come up with some compelling sounding ideas, maybe we can apply and have a chance. And probably not, but give it a shot.
As of this recording, there isn't even an application yet. We don't know what it's going to look like.
I have a feeling that it's going to be an application-based approach, because Apple, I mean, it could be a lottery or something, but I think it's more likely that Apple wants to control or has some influence on the types of applications that will come out when this thing launches, because if the rumors are true, it's going to be a low-yield type of device. There's only going to be so many of them. They're expensive, obviously, and then Apple, it's in Apple's interest for the launch of the product to coincide with a bunch of different apps that explore the space. So I think they're going to have an application process where we're going to be like, hey, here's my idea, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We can point them to this podcast. We make them sometimes.
Listen to podcast episode 45 and 46 and 47 or whatever. That's when we were coming up with
Steve and I were joking beforehand that from now on we're just going to be doing like multiverse of like vision puns
Yeah,
for like
it's
the
gonna
next
be
10
it's gonna be
podcasts or something.
After this, every episode will be some into the Spider-Verse type pun on Vision.
Across the Vision verse or something horrible. Well, let's hope we don't go there. But
I like puns. The lowest form of humor is my favorite.
So I think one of the things that's going to be interesting, I always tend to like to project to some degree or anticipate what the timeline is for Apple for like when certain things happen. So like we just got the SDK release. That's basically like almost for me a month ahead of when I personally expected that SDK to come out.
I thought July. I thought like middle of July.
Middle of July was where I was thinking.
Does that move the timeline up for the actual release? Because all they said was early 2024.
I don't know. Considering they broke so much,
anywhere between like January and May.
So, you know what's hilarious?
Considering Beta 2 broke so much other stuff, I'm like, maybe they rushed it out.
You know what's hilarious about that line is that early year could still mean early
March.
June.
It could be March.
Yeah.
I personally think it means March, but I wouldn't be surprised if next WWDC.
That's the average. But it's like it could be anywhere in the first half of the year. It could be early because.
Oh yeah, the first half of the year. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, it could be. That's
could be like
early.
WWDC next year.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, you guys are really hedging your bets.
I was thinking like sometime in the first quarter. But,
that's what I was thinking. That's how I interpreted it. But who knows? This thing's been in development for so long, and it's apparently very difficult to build. So
traditionally, Apple releases tend to fall in the September, October timeframe, and maybe November, right? In terms of like hardware releases, and like incremental releases like a MacBook update, I don't count those. And then you have one in maybe March, April, and occasionally you would have ones that are done in WWDC, like this past WWDC with the MacBooks and the Mac Pro. But I feel like those are still kind of like, like they're kind of like the incremental updates in my mind, even though they're technically new products. So in the case with, I feel like it's a fair assumption to be made that given the history of Apple, you can probably expect probably a March, April, May release timeframe. So the other reason,
and then in June they'll announce a new one. It'll be instantly obsolete.
Oh, you guys just spent $3,500. Version 2 is coming out next year, 2025.
What I expect is fancy customizable headbands, or what do you call those?
Gotcha.
The bands that wrap around your neck.
It's got to be a Nike version too.
Yeah, they got to have a Nike version, and they have to have like a big fat battery pack. Like, so there's the 2-hour battery pack, then you get the 4-hour battery pack. It'll be like this big massive thing.
Does anybody know? There's the cable that connects to that battery pack. Is that removable from the battery pack?
I think so.
Because that would make more sense to me than if it's like sealed onto it. Wasn't clear to me.
I don't know if it's like a MagSafe. I think it's like a MagSafe.
It's like a MagSafe with a locking mechanism. Or it's just you lock it on so it doesn't just pop off
on the
headset. But I'm saying side. on the other end, is it like a USB-C cable, or is it just a cable into the battery? I don't know. It wasn't clear to me from the pictures.
Right.
Because then it's a lot. Then if it's just a USB-C cable in it, you could easily have other batteries.
Right, that would actually make a lot of sense. That would be fantastic.
But don't you also plug it into the wall through the battery?
Yeah, so you could easily chain another battery pack.
Yeah, no, I was like, do you have to chain another battery and have like
chain of battery packs?
Like put Velcro around them or something you put in your pocket?
Walking around with one of those giant car battery size camping batteries.
I was wondering how is anybody ever supposed to watch like a Lord of the Rings or Avatar movie?
You need that.
You have to plug it in.
Well, you have to plug it in the wall.
Really long extension cable to the wall.
Exactly.
Really long USB-C cable.
I mean, the accessory market for this thing is going to be wild. Just in terms of just the absurd, like to get around the limitations of that goggle. But speaking of limitations, in the sense of like this particular product. Oh, one thing I did want to point out before we go into that particular topic. The other reason why, for me at least, I think it was a good idea for us to pivot was that regardless of whether we do anything with it, having the knowledge base and the skill set is probably a very good way to sort of prep yourself career-wise. So should this opportunity happen, you have developed your skills around visionOS so that you can market yourself as like I have 5 years experience.
Yeah. For when the job listing that says 5 years of visionOS experience.
You can apply for those
months.
jobs now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did someone post that somewhere on the Slack?
They do.
Someone already had like a 5 years
already.
But I guess going back to limitations about this platform, I don't know. Like we've all sort of gleamed through the documentation. Some of the things I've noticed that was revealed to us yesterday by Chris Baldwin. Shout out to you, Chris. Was the fact that it's not using SceneKit, you have to use RealityKit for your rendering engine. And that sort of creates an interesting dilemma, since I feel like RealityKit and ARKit work in different ways to create the AR interaction component of the experience. And while it makes sense, it also is limited because it's not it doesn't feel like it was a game engine first, AR platform second. It was like it's the inverse. So the version before didn't have particle effects or ways to do at least it didn't have it in an easy way. It felt like to do like very complex juicy like effects in that space. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But I think that the new version now has that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the new version, they're beginning to like put those in there, but it still feels less of a game engine and more of like, okay, we want to put you in this virtual space and let you navigate through it, but not necessarily do anything.
Like full support for Unity.
Yeah,
they have Unity.
Really want to do games.
Yeah, it does feel like they have the 3 different scenarios for apps. Like a window, and you have a volume, and you have a what is the other one? Full experience or something. Immersive, yeah. And it's like they're trying to. It's kind of like 3D on rails here. They're trying to make it easy. And then they're like, oh yeah, Unity's available here if you want to. But Unity is more it's still for the immersive experience, right? The
whole thing was they said you can like run your Unity apps like alongside your other apps.
Is it in a window?
I think it can be either one.
Could it be an experience?
So could I launch it from a window app?
Yeah, they're saying you can run it like as another window or volume on the side, and it'll like run its own independent renderer.
But as you were saying though,
that's actually nice. Yeah,
yeah, it's still the primary way that the apps work is that they are in your physical space next to each other by default in windows or volumes, right? And then you can go into one of them at a time as an experience. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah.
So you're restricted. So like there's only certain paths you can take. You can't necessarily just say, at least with this SDK or what we saw at WWDC, you can't just be like, I want to have all these random 3D things going on and anywhere I want, and I can just interact with these controls. It's like controls are mostly still 2D controls. They're just on like a sort of 3D plane. And
so I missed the point about maybe the idea of like having window views, right? So if I am sitting down and I have let's say I have 2 window apps, and then I want to stand up and get some coffee, do those window apps stay in place as I walk?
No, I believe they should stay where you put them.
To the kitchen. Right. So
like on the desk, you walk. I mean, that's what some of the
on the desk.
Well, some of the people who had done the demo, I think they were saying that. I read some reports like it's really good at anchoring things. So I would assume they'd be anchored.
Right. So that's the thing that confuses me is like, why would I not want it like for just window apps, not for the full immersion component? Full immersion makes sense, right? Full immersion is like, I have created this 3D space that I'm in and I can kind of navigate through and the things stay in place versus versus like I have these HUDs fundamentally, these 3D HUDs.
You want them to follow you,
and I'm having a FaceTime call, right? As an example,
yeah. But
like I want that to lock in place while I'm getting my coffee and then coming back down.
It seems like from the demos, and I haven't really explored the SDK yet, but it seemed like from the demos and WWC and everything that you're supposed to think of it like, would you pick up your monitor and carry it around with you when like no, it's the element you're acting with is in its place in your physical room that you're in, and so it's supposed to stay there. If it didn't stay there, it breaks the illusion of it being a digital artifact in the real world, and that's the primary like orientation that Apple seems to be pushing for this. Like right now, it's like these are digital things in the real world, and so they have to anchor to the real world, just like you wouldn't pick up your television and like carry it in front of your face. You wouldn't pick up like the big FaceTime thing. I think that's what's happening, but maybe there is a way to have it follow you around. I mean, and that would definitely in a full experience, you could probably do much more, whatever you want, right? But I think for a lot of the Windows stuff, that's the impression I got. Did anyone find anything different in using the SDK? Because I didn't get it to actually run yesterday.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's correct, but yeah, I didn't use it that much. I think there's like a thing where you can like recenter it or something. Like if you're using a window app and you just want to like not lock it, but like center it in front of you.
You could. Like recenter things. Yeah, there's a button so you can be like, so you could.
But I'm not sure how that works on the hardware because this is all simulator stuff, so it's kind of hard to tell how that relates to the actual hardware.
In the simulator, it's very easy to like float in the air, for example, do obnoxious things of like, because it's a 3D room basically. So if you put it on a game controller, it's just really nice room. Easy to like put yourself in places where as a human you physically you couldn't possibly do. But the to your point, Steve, when I do that, the windows do stay in place. Like they don't change their position, which I think is a kind of not a sad, but like a missed opportunity, I guess, in my mind.
Well, it's a
just
choice.
Because I mean, it's a choice, but I wonder if I'm missing something in terms of like I want the windows to lock in place while I'm walking.
Like lock, you want them to anchor to your face. You want them to anchor to a
like if my face is the camera, if my eyes are the camera, I want like say I'm watching a movie, right? And I put it in like PIP like pip mode. Like it's sort of like a pip mode, like put it on the left hand corner and I could just picture in picture and just like watch it that way while I'm like scanning the news or something, right?
Yeah.
That would be one of those scenarios where like I would want those things to be locked in place, or widgets. I mean, another good example.
I'm trying to imagine this. Like, why would I really want stuff following my field of view? I mean, if it's like a HUD, like Iron Man's HUD in the movies, that kind of thing, it kind of makes sense. That would follow the eyes around. But if I'm reading the news or something. And I'm watching a movie, like, do I really want that to be following my field of view? I think Apple's intention is to think of them as real objects. So, like, again, they wouldn't be following your view normally. Kind of breaks the illusion if they were. I guess it depends on what they are. And again, this is also the very first SDK, so there's no telling how this is going to evolve even before it gets released. And people may want to make these kinds of things, and maybe they'll figure out how to do it. But we've literally had maybe like hours of time with this. I've had nothing because I couldn't get the stupid simulator to install yesterday.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. From what I've heard and what I understood, like at the moment, Apple feels like this is like baby steps in terms of like for developers. So the expectation is not so much to get your apps to do anything 3D. Just get your apps in a state where it feels like it's a window. Yeah. It's basically take an iPad app or an iPhone app, and then
make it work.
Make it not only just work in like like a typical like design for visionOS style, but also integrate it to use visionOS aesthetics.
The materials,
so like their glass materials.
No more dark mode.
Right. The tab bar goes to the side.
Yeah.
Now, tab bar items go to the side. Things are a little more wider, and you almost have to treat it like a Mac app, or even a web app for that matter.
Just because you can resize the windows, right?
Right. So if you didn't build an iPhone or an iPad app, you're kind of constructing an entirely new app. I mean, you could stick an iPhone app like widgets, like, but it'll feel like a widget in that space.
Yeah, it's narrow.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
That is sort of like the window, like that's kind of like step one, right? So get a window app in that kind of conforms to the visionOS. Then from there, take it, and I'm sure Apple's probably mapped out, like most developers won't really know the full power of taking advantage of the full power of this platform until they get hardware. So they're not probably even expecting you to do anything more than just a window app for the year one. Year two,
unless you're one of the special developer companies that Apple's already given headsets to. I'm sure they exist.
Or you're like porting your Unity game or whatever.
Yeah. Games are going to be huge on this, I think.
I mean, to your point about like who's going to get these dev kits, right? Let's be honest. It's the people that can give Apple the best publicity. So it'd have to be like a media company, video game companies, like high-end video game companies, your Capcoms, your Square.
Maybe like an architecture firm or something. Someone who's doing hardware design or building design, some kind of engineering. They can show it off.
Right. Media companies like Disney, of course.
Any media consumption. Games and
games.
It's
if
just
you
weird.
Do like the one thing that's missing of that story is like there probably will be or should be something that comes out of left field, like a Procreate for that space.
Yeah.
I think that to me strikes me because like there's none of those prior items screams pro, right? They're all still consumer based focused products or applications.
Mm-hmm.
So a pro product for the content creators.
Yes. The YouTubers.
I think that's one of the biggest things for this V1 device. Because it's not going to be for the masses just because of the price and how few units there are going to be. That people are going to use it to create things in 3D that they couldn't before or didn't have something with that kind of fidelity, so they can make new experiences.
Yeah, so at Cyber Saturday yesterday, Culture and I were talking a little bit afterwards about what's the market for this at first, and we were like, okay, it's probably low volume of numbers compared to other things Apple makes. It's expensive. They're demoing at WWDC lots of examples of people using it in their home, but that's like weird that's like early adopter stuff. Like, is that really why? Would someone really buy this? I mean, besides the early adopter stuff, like how many people want to buy a $3,500 headset to like watch a movie on? I mean, but there's gonna be those people. But with a new product like this, who are the people that are gonna make money from it? Those are the people like target, like you're saying, content creators. And what about and for us specifically, or smaller developers, what are the niches where you could have someone like a content creator, someone who's like a small business that could benefit from some software that works with Vision Pro that would help
small business with a lot of cash.
Well, but I'm saying $3,500 for any reasonably functioning small business, like $3,500 is not cheap. But if it helps you to do your job significantly better or faster, then it could easily be worth that investment. And small business is also a vague term. Like there's a variety of sizes of small businesses with different kinds of,
Well, I mean, money, like a production studio, right?
Yeah,
like,
but
say, for example...
Like a smaller, I'm thinking smaller scale, because if you're talking about like an independent developer or a very small team, like what can you build that you're not necessarily going to build something that's going to appeal to like the largest, Fortune 500 firms or something. But you never know.
I mean, I guess it'd be an interesting question from a hardware standpoint, that camera taking part, right? Like if it's taking 3D photos, for example.
Yeah.
Could it technically, if you do a 360 shot of, like, let's say I wanted to make a 3D model of this cup, right? Could I use the visonOS camera, a Vision Pro camera, to have a HUD that just scan, like, okay, here's the item that we're going to scan. Have the points around that endpoint. Hold down the camera button and just like, and then, since it's an M2, hopefully this could work. Then generate the 3D model, phototelemetric version of the 3D model, using, was it CreateML, and thus instantly creating a 3D model with very little work. Like, you have like some instructions to get the bottom part of the cup. Like, that's the most complex part of the problem. But outside of that, that's just turning the cup over. But imagine having that kind of workflow to create 3D assets
just looking at them. Well, essentially looking at them and rotating them around, or looking around them. Yeah, you could. I'm not sure.
You would rotate around that. So that's one
physically.
That's for a 3D artist. Like, that's not having, like, I'm sure there's products out there like that already, but to do that through the visionOS is probably going to be a different beast, or at least it'll feel much, because it's all about feeling at the end of the day. Everybody talks about, like, oh, this is technically possible, but when it comes down to why people use a certain product, ultimately they're basing it on some kind of emotional connection to, like, oh, this feels like an extension of what I would want to be able to do. This gives me the superpowers to do something quickly, and it fits my vote perfectly, right? That's why designers and production teams and studios, pay those quote unquote big bucks for those Mac Pros or whatever, because it fits their flow better. And gets them work so that they can recoup that money faster.
I guess we're into the, like, ideas phase of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So scanning stuff is good. You should say, when we were talking yesterday with Side Project Saturday about this, we were thinking we didn't have a lot of completely well formed, like Aaron, coherent app ideas, because we haven't, like, even seen the thing in person yet, and it's like 4 days old, the SDK and everything. But we were trying to think of maybe to start with some prototypes of experiences, or like just see how things work at this stage, because it's not really intuitive yet how, what kind of works in this type of environment. I don't think it's intuitive for anybody yet because it's brand new. So we were thinking in terms of like maybe prototype ideas and not necessarily fully formed product ideas yet. But we're open to anything, and maybe we want to move forward and make a variety of very, very focused attempts at building, like, experiences where each of us are maybe doing something
small prototypes,
like something we do in like a week or two, or at most, like, in our part-time, and then we can review them, and then we can take from them whatever we learn about it, whether it's a good idea or not, and then move on. And I'm hopefully we'd be able to quickly narrow in on some kind of project that we all would want to work on. Does that sound like reasonable approach to this, Aaron? Because you and Coulter have had, in the last 4 days, more experience than I have in this, so you're the expert here.
Game controller in the simulator is game changing.
I've got to see if my Pro controller works.
I guess I'll have to get one.
Do if you have any controllers that work with the Apple Arcade or with the game? Yeah.
How do you set it up?
It's wonderful. It's basically connected through Bluetooth, or you can even directly connect it directly. A PS4 controller would be enough, and it just works like magic.
I don't have a PS4 or 3 or 2 or 1 or 5.
Oh, PS3 will work, I think.
I have a Nintendo Switch.
I'm trying to. No, Switch Pro will work. Pro will work.
I'll have to try it out.
Anything that works with the game controller kit should work, and I think
just never worked forever. I forgot that it works now.
Yeah,
so game controller works good, but
pro tip.
But as
just to navigate through the simulator is a bit of, like, the only thing it doesn't do, which I hope they change, is, like, you can't press any buttons to click on something. So
that's annoying.
so you have to actually go back on the mouse and then click on like a button or something like that.
Is the mouse pointer I guess the mouse pointer is your eye tracking then?
Yeah,
in the simulator.
Technically, yeah.
That kind of makes sense though, because unless the mouse pointer is moving around with the controller stick.
No,
it's not, right?
It's not. It basically, and that's the interesting part about it because it has game controller support. I think there's this weird disconnect of like you still have to like probably use your eyes to like do something and then click on something, but because there's no way to do that on the controller, as far as I can tell, it doesn't feel like there's
You need like a third hand. You need like
you
two people.
You basically need to like take your hands off the controller and then do the tap gesture.
Tap. Which is also
technically a pinch gesture.
It's the same gesture as like I'm squishing your head.
Squishing your head, yeah. If you know, was it Boys from the?
It was like a Canadian group, wasn't it? Boys from the Hall or something. Yeah.
Anyway,
I used to do that.
Really, really old reference.
We're old. We're old people.
Yeah, we're old.
Except for Aaron.
He's the young buck. What was the where is it? So the idea is like take one key component, key element of like interaction with visionOS. So in my case, I'm kind of curious about how I can get a better sense of like how you define certain hand gestures. The Happy Beam sample code actually is a really good starting point to see how that works. But basically, like figure out like how do I know like when the hand is completely spread out versus clinched in. Like you can detect left hand, right hand. That's pretty easy, and even the indexes, each digit of those hands. So the knuckles, the endpoints of each one. But getting them to figure out like how they interact so they can create that heart shape, for example, in the Happy Beam example code versus, or like in my case, I want to do something like a closed fist, and to be able to put something in that closed fist, like a beam, like a lightsaber beam, or a sword or something, right?
And the open fist for the
open, or like an open, So like how do you
fireball.
do that? Even though technically you have to like look at it, you have to see it from like your perspective, which is hard to like identify like what index counts, right? Because you could technically get away with just this, like just the one hand motion. If you can't see it through the camera, the other hand, you have to just assume that that's a Hadouken, right? But then most gamers will figure out how to cheat that and just use their one hand.
It's like the Wii days. Everybody found the cheats where they could sit on their couch and not really move.
And we had joked to some degree. We were like, "Oh, this is going to turn into like this very nerdy like LARPing idea."
Yeah, we just kept going around. I was like, "Okay, what about if in one hand I can shoot fireballs, and the other hand I can shoot ice, and then we combine them together?"
Doctor Strange thing.
Yes, Doctor Strange. You know that's going to happen. Doctor Strange, like
probably
the magic system. Yeah, because it's all about hand gestures.
Right. So you'd be doing
portals. Portals came up as an idea.
You could do like this, like the waving the hands while you point your finger, and the pointing of the finger will actually place where the portal goes. Right, your finger becomes the ray tracer, like the pointing finger, the ray trace. That they'll use that as the ray tracer, and then to point to a wall. If it detects a wall, then once it sees your other hand doing this, wax off motion, I
think it would be more like.
I'm just throwing out all tons.
I think it would work with you looking at the wall and then doing the gesture. I'm not sure how. If it could interpret pointing at things, but definitely the eye tracking works well, so it knows exactly where you're looking.
See, but you gotta have you gotta have the full motion. You gotta have get.
You could do the motion. So you're saying hand tracking is one thing you want to look at. How well does that work? What's available to you as a end developer? Scanning things. Maybe is a potential thing. That's probably not something we can work on without hardware, though. But
that is the
good
challenge.
Stuff is like hardware specific.
Like
so hand tracking and eye tracking, you can't do any of that.
So I was thinking like, what's something that's like a 2D thing that we can just bring in that you could have some enhancement to. So photos are something, right? So they did that example of the giant, the panoramic photos. Maybe there's something there with bringing in your collections of photos and then being able to explore them differently. I don't know what that means exactly,
one interesting idea might be. I mean, we probably have to hold off on like wild gesture recognition, hand gesture recognition, if I had to be honest.
But simple
and
ones,
focus
maybe.
much more on UI design of like how do we can do window apps because they're basically just glorified, iPad, Mac OS style of coding of an app. For the most part, I mean the ornament stuff and the sidebars, the tab bar stuff on the left hand side is what distinguishes a visionOS version of that app. The real test is like, okay, how do I do like one first preliminary test is like just getting the movie player to like come up in more interesting ways than just plop.
Yeah.
And then really explore the AV player and how you can like do interesting things that way. The other thing is, like you said, photo editing might be an interesting path of like, okay, I have this photo, right? And I can like resize it and zoom in, zoom out, do sort of complex interactions.
Yeah.
And like dial in the saturation or the like do photo editing in that space.
Yeah. Also, I thought about something like just exploring your photos differently. So maybe like all the photos taken in a particular place over time, and then you can have them visualize like surrounding you or in a different kind of pattern. Like, so it's not just necessarily one window.
I got one for you.
But yeah.
A framer.
Yeah.
So you can do previews of, you can take a photo from your virtual box, whatever. We'll keep it simple, just from the photo library.
Yeah, get something from the photo library.
And then you can sort of lay them out like you normally would in like a light, like an actual physical Lightroom.
Yeah, right.
And then you pick one, and then you're like, okay, now I want to apply a frame to it, and then you can put that frame on your wall to preview what that would look like. I'm not saying that's a great idea, by the way.
No, but that could be a perfect prototype. Because actually last night, I was making frames last night in Lightroom on my phone for a photo. Like I had to, but the reason I did it is because I had to make it fit in an aspect ratio. But putting like a frame around photos is a thing that's built into the mainstream photo apps now. So it makes sense to something like that could be cool. And the added fun of it is you should be able to anchor it to your wall and have it remember. But even if you don't do that far on the prototype, just building it could be interesting. You could make it work in I don't know, maybe it's a more advanced prototype, but having your photo as the inside a 3D frame, then you could maybe layer something else on top of it. You could make like a 3D kind of photo out of something.
I know you can save sessions in AR. Aaron, maybe
you can.
I think you.
Yes.
I don't know.
You can. Yeah.
I don't know. Is Room Plan also integrated in visionOS? Like we can scan a room.
I'm pretty sure you can do like anything you can do in iOS. So.
Okay.
So we could
like you can do the photogrammetry thing, like because they added that in iOS 17, so you can do that in visionOS too. So you can probably do Room Plan. It's got LiDAR.
Right. So that's the part that I'm kind of curious about. Of like,
it's not listed on the documentation.
I don't know if the documentation
haven't released the SDK for that.
Right. Yeah, that's the part that I was concerned about because it probably has the ability, but that's more like behind the scenes. I don't know if it's revealed to you for like, or if you can do it manually. Like Room Plan, the whole point of Room Plan is to be able to manually scan your room with your LiDAR, enabled iPhone or iPad, and get a better sense of your room's dimensions.
Yeah, visionOS is just doing that passively for you all the time.
Right.
Nice.
So, but the question is, where can we get that data back somehow? Of like identifying, like it can do basic stuff like identify like an object, like a chair or a table. Like, can I do that? Can I get that feedback back?
I want to make that Post-it app we saw yesterday.
Post-it app?
Yeah, just like I want my whole wall just covered in my Post-it. No, we were talking about virtual Jira and stuff like yesterday, Aaron, because and we were like,
who's there? Who's there?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
Were you there for that part?
I was there.
Okay. Yeah, so we were all
Send it in
for the
portal.
listeners. We're all doing the portal. I like the idea of the portal. I don't know how hard it is to use the portal thing in this, but I like the idea of having a portal. So one of the things was we had an idea was like an item box where you can have something in there, like photos is an obvious thing, and you can like look inside the portal just for fun, and then you could command it to give you like give me all the photos from Yosemite Park, whatever, and then it'll just like it'll come up to you, and then you can kind of like grab them. I mean, just completely like useless things. It's way less efficient, but it'd be fun.
Would be the most obnoxious thing to do is like create a Jira app, right? And so like you open up a window and you have a Jira ticket. You write your Jira ticket, and then you fold it like an envelope, and then you open up a portal. You send it through the portal, and then like Aaron sees the portal open up. The Jira ticket pops on his table and just be like,
I mean, I actually thought, okay, so besides it being Jira, that's actually not a bad fun idea to send messages to somebody that way. And then they if you could get the multi-user thing working, then you could send it to somebody and it could pop out like of a portal or something.
We've just brought back handwritten letters.
Yes, exactly. We brought handwritten letters. Or the Harry Potter owl thing where people
That's not a bad idea.
People would love this. I think there'd be some fans of this, and you could have your virtual owl come and you can give the message like send this to Aaron, and then it'll fly away, and then it'll fly into your scene, Aaron, when you turn on the headset, and it'll like, oh hey, hello. No idea if this is possible, but we're bringing back. We're basically going to reinvent all of the things we did with paper and hand tools and stuff. We're just going to be doing it in VR and AR. We're going to be making our own butter and stuff.
You write your message on a physical piece of paper, and then you like digitally send it.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah,
it's the most complicated fax machine ever.
Exactly.
$3,500.
Oh my god! I think that's the title of the episode: the most complicated fax machine ever.
Well, no. So like, you can use PencilKit, right, to just like virtually write a note. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how good like handwriting is going to be.
Oh, it's going to be horrible.
Yeah, that's why it's like you could just write it on real paper and then scan it.
Right.
Scan it by looking at it.
Oh, that would be kind of funny. Yeah, right. So like you scan it, right, and then it creates the virtual version.
As you're writing it, it would be like adding it to your note or whatever.
If you're looking at the notes that I'm updating, look at how terrible these ideas are.
Yeah. No, this is not a good idea.
This is
terrible. These are great.
Bad app idea.
From a technical standpoint, right? If I was like, it doesn't matter. Let's assume that I'm just fundamentally sending you a text message, right? But let's say
make it more
fun. Or even like an internal messaging system. Like, let's say we use Firebase or even CloudKit or something, which is probably a horrible idea. But anyway, to send a message, right? And it's basically a glorified push notification.
Yeah.
If you get it on your iPhone, you get it like a push notification. But if you get it in visionOS, you get the owl coming in and dropping in like a piece of poop.
I no way if that's possible, but that would be awesome.
I don't see why not. Doesn't sound like anything.
If the app is running, why can't it do that? Yeah.
Right. That would be my point, right? Like, it would
or
just come
in the experience. Maybe you have to be in the fully immersion for that to work. I don't know.
Like, I would just love it to just like break your immersion. Like, if you're in your like immersion space, and then all of a sudden, just an owl just like breaks through immersion view and like drops you a note.
So this is why we're coming up with these terrible prototype ideas, because we need to explore the space. What is even possible here, and what is not yet? One of the more useful potential ones we talked about before was like those magnetic blocks, and that might be a good one to also look at, like a prototype. Can you get blocks to appear and get them to stick together in 3D on the edges?
Right. So you could technically use the pre-existing assets. I'm sure they probably have like a triangle and a square block, and figure out how you can like bring them into take them from like place them in SceneKit, but then you only need to call the model specifically. Not SceneKit. Place them in a Reality Composer Pro file.
Yeah.
Or even just keep it as like an asset, and then you can call it from the 3D asset folder. And then there you can manipulate them and see how they link together. Yeah. If you can like lock them together in 3D space. And this would have to be in immersion mode.
Yeah. So running up on our time limit here. So like, do we want to pick anything to start working on while we're recording this podcast here?
So my personal proposal is that everyone sort of picks something for themselves, and it has to be small. It cannot be something where like you're going to be spending tons of time on. You just want to see something working, and then we can come back in 2 weeks and go, okay, like this is what I did. Here are the bottlenecks. Here's where it's useful, et cetera, et cetera. And we kind of like, so we can kind of spread our net wide to sort of like find things that can ultimately, we might be able to like bring back together and like integrate into each other's work.
I mean, I would like to see what if there's any demo apps that deal with photos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something with the photo space. That's what I spent a lot of my time doing anyway.
My personal recommendation is to consider trying to see if you can create a window app where you just take a basic photo and desaturate it, and then play with the controls to see if you can even do like ornaments or some kind of like different types of component UI elements that are outside the window to do the editing and see how that feels. Because I think I'm kind of curious of how that would work or how that would feel. So all you're doing is just something very basic as a filter for the photo.
Okay, I'll look into that. So that would be me.
Yeah.
And then Coltero.
I'm going to be exploring hand gestures because I want to get a sense of like how we can do gesture recognition. And I'm kind of already have a head start with Happy Beam, but I'm trying to like, deep dive into that.
It's a demo. It's a demo app.
Is it just like a bean that hops around like it's happy?
No, Beam with the
Happy
Beam. I was like, I keep imagining a freaking bean like you would eat. Like, what is this Happy Bean?
Just assumes everybody's seen this sample code.
I know.
It's like the Care Bear. I haven't seen it.
There are for the people listening.
I had a really busy last week. I've not gotten to look at these demos.
There are 3 really good demos that Apple provided. Is it 3? I'm pretty sure there's at least 3. One of them is the Hello World, which is basically the one that they show in a lot of WWDC videos, where it's basically the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun in different stages. So it starts out as a window app, and then you can click into other versions of like other windows, which basically could be a volumetric window that just shows the globe or like a 3D asset, or it can show a window with a 3D asset in it. Or it takes you into like, you can go into full immersion mode. I don't know if it does show a way to do progression mode or progressive mode, but it does have something where it does like allow you to see, like if you move the camera or if you move around, you'll get you out of immersion mode at some points. So you can kind of see how that works. So that's a really good starting point for anything visionOS. Second one is I forgot the name of it, but it's basically a way so that you can kind of see like a volume mode that you can do a lot of complex 3D modeling morphs. So transition, it shows you like basically a 3D map of Yosemite, and then it morphs into like I think some other like Cupertino or something like that, or not Cupertino. It morphs into some other map. Basically.
That's cool. Oh yeah, I didn't think about map stuff. Map stuff is a great idea too for this. Exploring physical spaces that you're not, in.
But it's a good like stress test of the types of 3D content and interactions that you can do with RealityKit in I'm trying to remember. I think it's in volume mode. So just in terms of like what you can do with a volume style application. The other one that I think is much closer to like mixed reality is Happy Beam, where Happy Beam pushes RealityKit more or less to where I feel like its fullest potential could be.
Is it like a Care Bear stare with a beam coming out of your hands?
It's a Care Bear heart. So you put your hands in a heart gesture.
Yeah.
Where you put your 2 hands together and it creates a heart, and then you fire a heart beam like a Care Bear stare heart.
Yeah,
and
it's gonna.
You take these clouds and you turn these gray clouds into like nice happy rainbow clouds.
It's gonna be the basis of so many LARPing games.
Yes,
there.
I agree. But
the fighting
key
games.
The key part that to keep in mind is like that one for sure has an interesting at least demonstration of how you can see how all the digits can be accessed, and then how you can figure out the relationships between the two hands or the two gestures, and then kind of like calculate that.
Is there any of them? Is there anything that's more like like a window app? Anything that uses photos or accesses?
I would actually recommend the Hello World one.
Hello
first.
World. Okay.
Yeah, because I think that does a good job.
So we got
like this is how it's laid out.
We got. I'm going to be looking at the Hello World app, I guess. Koto's going to be looking at the Care Bear app or the whatever they call it, and I keep remembering Care Bear Stare, man. I'm sorry. I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I remember that show.
Aaron, is there anything that's interesting to you as an idea in general?
Just for prototyping.
I something with 3D models, but I don't know. I'm not sure there's any good sample code.
Yeah, the 3D model one probably you might want to take a look.
Can you scan? Do you have any way of scanning a cup?
There's just tons of 3D models out there on the internet.
But you don't need to scan them yet.
So the Reality Composer Pro app actually has, I think the original one did too, but this one has a way so that it comes with a collection of predefined assets.
You know what, Aaron?
So you can use those as a starting point.
Bring back the bouncing orange ball from one of our most famous episodes, and this time, here's what you do. All you want to try to do is, can you make the ball bounce off a wall or bounce off of a table or something? Can you make it like bounce off of something? Anything. Yeah. It doesn't have to do anything. Can you get it to? Is that a thing you could do fairly easily? Can you get it to bounce? Because you can get a bouncing orange ball, or maybe multiple bouncing orange balls. Then it could be fun, and you could just have them all rain down and start bouncing everywhere as a demo, and just be surrounded by orange balls.
I guess you're asking him to see how the physics engines work.
Yeah, basically, it's 3D objects
it's a physics
and also
I don't know how good it is.
Right? Not even just physics, it's like physics, and because we did it kind of had it in an AR kit back. We kind of had a prototype then, so you should be able to do it at least that much, and then hit detection. How do can you tell it
collision detection? It does have collision detection.
Yeah. So I'm like, can't you collision detect and then reverse the gravity and have it go back up? Something simple like that, or can I grab it and do a gesture and have it throw? Is there any way of taking momentum of a movement? I don't know. That's something to explore too. Is can you get momentum data when you do a gesture like that, like you can with swipes and things? So you could use that as part of the calculation for moving objects. Because I know Apple's big thing is you don't have to move your hands around a lot of stuff, but that's going to be the fun things. It's bringing back the Wii style. We don't have to move around.
I mean, one thing that might be interesting is if you want to test the physics engine, just put a bunch of 3D assets, create a scene where it just has a bunch of 3D assets that will show up on a table.
Oh yeah,
and then have a ball, maybe do a tap gesture, create a ball, and then send it at the toys, for which then they can react to. They can knock it down. Basically, it'd be glorified bowling.
Or even simpler, as I said, just make an object appear and fall.
They already have. They did a demo of that in one of the WWDC videos.
Maybe if the code exists, maybe you can modify that to do some other exploration. Because we're trying to figure out what can we do with the physics engine. That could be something, or with 3D models. How can they? How does it work?
Basically, we're just at this point of the journey. We're just trying to understand how it works. Because one thing that's
dark.
One thing that's I realized about this platform is a lot of, and I don't think a lot of people really understand just yet, a lot of game development paradigms or terminology is used a lot in this platform. And it's kind of always been the case with ARKit in that sense, but it's most people have not really deep dived into it, so I don't think it's really clear that yet. You have to think of it much more in the kind of you're messing with a 3D space, and basically you're in a 3D environment where spatial awareness becomes a big deal, like getting and so all the things that game developers kind of know through experience, this is a very like, oh yeah, I get the space. Like they have an advantage in terms of like trying to develop an experience, because the other secret sauce to this whole thing is sound. If you don't have a good like strategy around sound, your thing is going to like, it's just going to be a glorified window app. 90%, I feel like 90% of the apps out there are going to be glorified, are going to, at least in day one, are just going to be like
it'll be ports of
apps.
iPad
It'll be
apps,
ports,
yeah. I mean,
and that's fine. That's
fine
I don't think
for
Apple
day
expects.
one, yeah.
Right.
Especially
I
because
think Apple expects.
Yeah, I mean, most of us won't even have a device, and we're going to be releasing apps without ever touching one of these things.
No, that is very true. And what's hilarious is like they also have things where they're like, oh, we're going to have like labs everywhere, and it's like, yeah, but there's no place in the East Coast.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that. Like, why are we abandoned over here? Most of us live here. There's a whole bunch of people live in the East Coast.
I mean, I'd be fine if it's like, I understand Philadelphia not getting it, but like New York, like is that like one of the media capitals of the world? It's like, am I missing something?
No, it's always like the flyover, between New York and DC. Nobody cares about Philly.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. It's just hilarious.
But it's not even in New York. It's not even something in New York. Nothing.
So
DC, nothing.
Which connects, which is like one of the key hubs of like, you can get from Boston, from Toronto, from Philadelphia, from Washington D.C. Like we can all go to New York pretty easily.
I don't know. It's a weird omission. I'm like, why is that no one on the East? That's a lot of people that you're just excluding.
A lot of people, but that's fine. That's fine. Anyway.
Come, but
in any case, I think we're hitting up on our time.
We're actually a little over our time.
Yikes.
So we gotta wrap it up.
I'm going to wrap it up right now. Well, again, that's all we have for today. You can learn more about Philly Cocoa at phillycocoa.org. There you'll find links to our Slack group, meetup schedule, and contact info. If you're feeling generous, please leave a review on the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your podcast platform of choice is. And please share us with your friends. And one more thing. I don't have a one more thing, actually, for once, because I was in a rush. But we do always say, we do always want to make sure that we promote local. So get clipdish.com. Our boy Matt Mullen has made a wonderful recipe app that I would recommend you try out. Clipdish.com or getclipdish.com.
Getclipdish.com, yes, indeed.
iPhone, iPad, and who knows, maybe visionOS coming
knows?
soon. Till next time. Excuse me. Till next time, good luck on your own developer journey. We will cheer for you always.
It's the most complicated fax machine ever.